Elite Water Sports. You're in the right club now.
Hey everybody, it's Sean on my way back to LKQ, the Tampa location. This is the 18th of August 2021. There's a heat advisory today, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time out there. The feels like temperature is supposed to be like 110, something like that. But I got a notification from LKQ earlier today via the app saying that they got a car at their Tampa location that's a pretty interesting ride, really. It was very high-tech when it came out, although by today's standards, it is sure as heck not a fast car. Although for the time it was. And it also kind of received a bad rap because they only did what they did for the fuel injection for 2 years. The first year was 1982, and that's when they debuted crossfire injection, otherwise known as ceasefire injection, and it debuted on the Corvette. That was only around for in the Corvette 82 and 84. In 1985, they switched over to the much more successful tune port injection, which takes on more of a traditional look. The crossfire injection had 2 barrel injectors, which was quite similar to a Chevy truck of that era. Matter of fact, the injectors will actually interchange. But I just thought you'd get a kick out of this because the car, for its time, suspension-wise and steering-wise and frame and all that, was crazy high-tech, and it did incredibly well on a slalom course. But by today's standards, as I said, that low 200 horsepower engine just was. And on top of that, if it had a manual transmission, don't even get me started on the 4-speed, 3-speed overdrive and Doug Nash. And we're going to learn a whole lot about this car. It's really cool. It's almost certainly an automatic, but yeah, it's so crazy. There's so much stuff that's unique to this 84. The coolest thing I always thought was when they came out with this car, they were so excited about you having the new body style, which was the very first year of the C4 configuration, 84 to 96, that they gave it to you almost a year early. Your 1984 Corvette could be picked up in March of 83, so you had a brand new car for 2 years instead of 1 year. You're gonna really like this, so let's learn a little bit about a 1984 Corvette. Now see, I gotta admit, I've never seen one of these here in my life. It got the frame, it smoked the front end. Looked like it was, holy crap, that thing smoked, dude. But first time I've ever seen a bike here. That's kind of crazy. Also, this area normally has a whole bunch of cars in it. And there it is, and they told me row 106. I think that's further back in there. I assumed it was going to be in the very front. They normally put the ones that are a little unusual or newly discovered right in the front. But I'm not complaining because I'm walking through all the Chevy trucks to get there, which I would have done anyway. Now, like I was saying earlier, the 84 Corvette was a real groundbreaker in a lot of ways. And as I also said, by today's standards, pretty much anything on the road will smoke it. But let's get back here to row 106. Now see, this upsets me, man. What's that, a 92-ish? Standard cab, long bed, 3/4 ton. Oh, I love these trucks. It's a shame that one had to wind up out here. And there she blows. Well, it looks like so far so good. Got a lot of parts on it. Automatic car. Well, there you have it, 84. First year for a lot of stuff. Last year for a couple of things. First of all, what? HEI distributor? On top is the crossfire injection unit. As you can see, it's basically just 2 barrel injectors. Just a real quick disconnect on top there, and very similar, almost exactly the same as what you would have had on a pickup truck of the next few years. The reason this car really moved technology forward is because it did a whole lot of things that GM had not yet done before. Those wheels, which kind of jokingly were called salad shooters, first 16-inch wheel ever used on a vehicle by Chevy. And this is kind of an old thing that went on for years and years. You see this knob going side to side. The steering wheel not only tilts, but will go forward and back as well. They started that in 68 or 69. The dash pod that you see is totally gone here was fully digital, first time ever in a Corvette. So this C4 had a lot of things that the previous cars did not have. Thankfully, this did not have the manual transmission, because those were an absolute nightmare until finally about 91, I believe. The 6-speed came along, but all the 4-speed, 3-speed overdrives were just hideous. Some of them had the actuator to kick it into overdrive on top of the shifter button. Other ones were a separate button down on the console, and it was just a nightmare. It was a terrible setup. It was kind of an overdrive unit that was mounted on the original system. On the front of the engine there, you see the first time they used a big, humongous bracket that housed pretty much everything. These headlights were different from the previous generation in that these flipped over and out, while 68 to 82 flipped up probably about 60 degrees from the closed to the open position, and the 63 to 67 before that were electric, and in their closed position they faced the back of the car, but then they would spin over. Now, that's kind of the tip of the iceberg with this car. There are a whole bunch of things that they did so differently on this car. They had a hatch on the end of the C3, but the rear end, the IRS up under here, 82 and 84 were quite similar, not exactly the same, but I'll tell you what, man, when they went into this car, everything changed. 1983, when this first became available, March of 83, the Z51 option, which is still an option on a Corvette to this day, even on the C8, was deemed too harsh of a ride for the people who bought the car. So the next year they changed spring rates and shock damping rates and made it a much softer car. So the 84 is actually, from a suspension standpoint, a fantastic car and would make a really good candidate for something that you could, put an updated engine, maybe LS or something. Now, 84 is the only year of this body style that had the crossfire injection. The very next year, they went to a tune port injection, which was much more similar to what was available after that. Where we see these 2 barrel injectors now, the next year, we went to a throttle body up on the front, like you see on most V8s these days. From the throttle body, went into a main aluminum plenum and some runners that went down to the engine. The reason they did this style and the next style, the TPI, is because it increased velocity in the runners. And what that is going to effectively do, it's like if you have a water hose and the diameter of the hose is not very large, the water will come flying at the end at a greater rate. It'll go farther. However, if you have a sewer pipe, the water's just going to drain and trickle out the edge. So that increased velocity made it so the car felt faster than the 205 horsepower it really had. Also, that main thing that I haven't even addressed yet, see that huge clamshell hood? First year for that. Although opening backwards has been something they've done since the very beginning, since back in 53. Another thing that puts this time into perspective is we see there is no airbag there. And contrary to popular belief, on the passenger side, that is not an airbag either. What's inside there is a computer, which leads me to my next point.
OBD2, onboard diagnostics 2, what we all have to this very day, started on the Corvette in 1994. Back in 1984, that right there was just a little cover to put over the computer. It did nothing besides that. Very primitive computer. And that also slows down when it comes to restoration of a vehicle like this, because they're just, when it comes to the computer, you don't have as many options as an OBD2 car. This one does look like it has all the various parts and stuff you might need. A full set of the wheels. No, not a braking assembly. Let's not use that. But this car really was a cutting edge car. This was about when they stopped using engine driven fans entirely and went to electric fans. I don't know the exact year on that, but it's just so weird to see a Corvette with a distributor on it. I had a 1994 that was the LT1 engine, and I believe the LT1, which replaced the L98 tune port injection engine, I believe that started in 91, but I'm not sure. And I think these valve covers are magnesium. A lot of really normal stuff up under here still. A little heater motor, AC, evaporator core inside there. A lot of these pieces on this car also, while they may look just like the other years, the other types, they're not the same. Like this right here, see where it says Crossfire injection? That's the only one that says that. The vents change every 3 or 4 years, but that is the only year that would say Crossfire. Little aftermarket chrome gadgetry. It's a fun little car. I think this was among, I think this may have been the very first one that also had an option where you could change the gauges from metric to English. Now, on the bright side, since this car just got here, if you are needing some parts, depending on the parts, some of these parts will fit all the way up to a 96. Your best chance of fitting is 84 to 87, because a lot of the body stuff will be same, suspension, but obviously the engine will be different. You went up about 40 horsepower, if I remember correctly, when you went to the TPI, or at least 30 or so. But there you have it. Already was using serpentine belt at the time. And those little motors go. They've always gone, even on the newer generations. There you have it. There's your 84 white Corvette LKQ. The 18th of August, 2021 in Tampa. Didn't expect to see that in here. Little Iron Duke in it. The 4-Tech, otherwise known as the Quad 4. I always thought it was funny that quad also means 4, so it's the 4-4. But these are great trucks, man. Newer style S10 rims on it. Had a whole bunch of these, man.
Saab, built from jets. You know, like jacuzzi jets that make the water go right on your lower back. You gotta admit you love those jets, right? Try the car.
I have got to admit it's the first time I've seen a motorcycle of any type in here, let alone a Harley bagger that's just, I mean, smoked. That front fender hit the crash bar. That frame right there, oof. And that thing's smoked. This is the Tampa location once again, guys. Don't know the... Let me look in here and see if I see the year. Harley... I know there's somebody out there who knows right off the top of their head, but I can't really see it. Anyway, it's a crashed Harley. Beat all to hell. I am not gonna lie, that was pretty cool, all except the 97 degrees inside my truck right now. Whew. That car was such a game changer for Chevrolet, but if you look back on it, it wasn't fast by today's standards. It didn't do anything particularly well. It was almost like the Knight Rider of its time. All the little gadgets and flashing lights and stuff. But it evolved into a real car. By the time C4s were over in 1996, they had evolved into a 300 horsepower or 330 horsepower LT4, the 300 horse being an LT1, which was used for like 5 years there. And then after that, man, everything changed on the C5. You, in 1997, got the LS1, fantastic engine. 1998, they started putting it in the V8F bodies, the Trans Ams and Z28s and stuff. Then in 2001, in the Corvette, they came up with the Z06, 405 horse. I almost forgot, in the middle of the C4, from 1990 to 1995, there was also the ZR1, which ZR1 has been used a couple of times in the history of the Corvette, but at this point in time, the ZR1 indicated 4-cam, 32-valve, Mercury Marine V8 engine built by Mercury Marine, and the whole rear of the car was wider, and they had like the rear wheels were wider, and it was just this fantastically different car. But the thing that's wild is, to take you back to that time, the ZR1s with 4 cams and 32 valves and all this crazy technology still made at its maximum 405 horsepower. Since then, in later generations, we've had lots of 600 and 700 horsepower cars. So, but it's important to know this tale about where things started, Like back in '53, there were 300 of them made. They were all polo white, sportsman red interior, and it's nice to know the history of the car, because the more you know that history, the more you'll appreciate the one that you have, no matter what the year. And I know I like looking back on this stuff because I'm old enough now to remember when that car came out. And who would have thought that we would be 4 times the power these days? Thanks for going along with me, guys. And remember, please like and subscribe. A whole lot of people watch these and they don't wind up liking or subscribing, and it makes it so the video does not come up on searches as quickly. So do that if you would. I would really appreciate that. Also, if you want me to like your page, just let me know down in the comments and I will hook you up. You guys have a great day. See you.